what is the true meaning of nutrition?
Nutrition is just sort of the fuel that we provide our body.
Can you name some, top of the mind, top notch colleges in India or abroad?
SVT, there's SNDT, there is Nirmala Niket.
Welcome, viewers, to No Herd Mentality's Career Podcast. In today's podcast, we are going to unravel sports nutrition. And to spill the beans, we have Shona Prabhu. She's a founder and practicing sports and wellness nutritionist at Nutrify My Diet. She has done her Masters of Science in Sports and Exercise Nutrition from UK, and she has crafted personalized nutrition plans for teams like Delhi Capitals, IPL team, national, state, and Olympic level athletes, and Indian women's and men's hockey teams, to name few. So let's welcome Shona Prabhu.
Thank you, Ruchika. Pleasure to
Thank
be
you
here.
so much, Shona, for joining us and taking out your valuable time.
No, it's great. I'm excited because this is a little different from the usual podcasts I do or interviews I've had. So yeah, looking forward to, the questions that are coming my way.
Great. Shona, I picked up this quote from your website,
Mhm.
which said that, nutrition is not just about food.
Yeah.
Nutrition is about creating a lifestyle that supports both your body and mind, and it really strikes a chord. So, I want to know what is the true meaning of nutrition and how does a general nutrition differs from sports nutrition?
Okay, all right. So, like nutrition is just sort of the fuel that we provide our body, right? It's one activity that we do so often in the day around eating, right? At least a minimum of 3 or 4 times compared to all the other chores that we, would otherwise do. So it's definitely important to sort of nourish our body. So nutrition is more like nourishing your body with the right kind of food so that you can do your day-to-day tasks well, you can live well within your own body, right? And you look forward to sort of approaching each day as it comes with good sort of energy, strength, and all of that. So when it comes to general nutrition and sports nutrition, the common thread between both of them is that we are looking to improve the health of a person or getting the best that way, right? Because even an athlete without being healthy can't do much, right?
Correct.
But when it comes to sports nutrition, we're focusing on certain things like the timing of when that particular food is coming, in terms of how much quantity that athlete, requires at what time, but with and also combination of different foods that work synergistically together, right? But for an athlete when their schedules are very demanding, then they need we focus specifically on the performance aspect of it, right? So they need to turn up for their training with good energy every day. Their coach isn't going to give them a break just because they don't feel like it, as opposed to a recreational athlete, right? Then we need them to recover well. We need apart from the energy and recovery, the immunity, because when you're traveling a lot, when you're on the grind day in and day out, then your immunity also needs to be well, good. So all of these things are what we focus on sports nutrition. And apart from other things, which I'm sure we discuss, there's body composition, and those are the main areas that we focus on, when we discuss, when we talk about sports nutrition, and a little bit on supplements and hydration as well.
All right. So, what is the role of a sports nutritionist, and what does a typical day looks like for a sports nutritionist? What does the job exactly entail?
Okay, all right. So, see, with there are a couple of setups a sports nutrition can work in, based on which the routine may change a little bit, right? Or what tasks they do on a day-to-day basis. Now, if you're seeing athletes one-on-one in a sort of clinic setup or an office setup, then most of your day will go in counseling and meeting new clients, right? New athletes, helping them understand their food better. And then that's one bit of it. But also making nutrition plans is the second, part where you'll spend some of your day doing. So either working on new plans or working on, athletes that have come for their follow-ups. You'll be doing some sort of follow-up calls, to check on other athletes, whether they're in the form of calls or text messages, but you're in touch with other athletes. So that's one. But then you'd also, in an academy sort of setup or a field setup, you may be doing things like, a sweat rate analysis. You may be checking because for their hydration. You'd be checking on, maybe the menu bit of it, right? So all of those checking on the menu when I say like some academies and clubs they offer food to their athletes. So then we're also
Okay.
checking in on okay what's been made, is it as per the plan, all of that. And some nutritionists are also involved in taking body composition assessments. Right. So, and at office setup, it could happen where you do skin folds and all of that. But otherwise, there are also machines that help you get the same data. So these are things that are the most basic things that happen. But if you're also someone who likes to, put information out there in terms of educational information, then you would be doing a little bit of social media work too, which
Mhm.
is very important in today's
Today's
world.
day.
If you're not seen, or then no one knows about what work you're doing. So that's also part of it. So these are generally the things that go on in a day-to-day
Yeah,
life.
out of sight, out of mind these days, You
Yeah, it is. Even if personally you don't want to be active on social media, I think professionally, because that's how people are consuming information and looking at what options for anything first would Google, want to see what the reviews are like, who the person is. So yeah, so some presence in social media is important.
correct. Couldn't agree more. My next question is
Yeah.
to, specifically address the query of a high school student who is very intrigued by a sports nutrition career and wants to explore it further.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the must have or essential interests and aptitude that you need to possess in order to pursue a career in sports
Mhm.
nutrition?
Okay, all right. Yeah, that's a good question. And it so with let's say um an aptitude, first when we are looking at sports nutrition, we are looking at understanding the life sciences, those subjects well. Right. So if you so generally in class 12, you need to take up some sort of bio-based subject. So biology, right? Chemistry, physics, and the other ones are okay to have, but biology sort of is important for you to take up,
Okay.
right? But once you do that, then it's easier sort of to branch, out and study nutrition. Right. So at grade 12 level, that's important. But in terms of skills, I think one is good communication, right? Communication, not just fluency of languages, but communication in terms of um, taking complex topics and simplifying them for your athletes. Right? You should be able to do that. So it's something that you need to practice, you need to learn how to do that. Um, it could be any athlete that you're speaking to, or any, it could be the support team, coaches, but everyone needs it broken down into something similar, right? You need to have some good analytic skills because you're getting blood test reports, you're getting body assessment details, you're getting some data from maybe apps that the athletes are using. You're getting data from the S&C coaches as to how the athlete is doing. So you need to have a good means of, putting all of that together, factoring them in, and then, uh, you know, making the nutrition plan. Another thing is good listening skills. Okay, because when we have like knowledge on the other side, we want to sort of uh, let the athlete know a lot of things. But I think when you listen first, you get a lot more information, and then you have like a lot of time to give your expertise, right? But that's one. And as I mentioned, you can't really shy away from social media. You have to you have to whether you want to do it, more through podcasts like this, or you're okay to be in front of the camera, or you want to do it at the back end where you're just putting out maybe infographic kind of text. That's also something that I've had to learn, because when I started off, this wasn't really, something that we had to do, but now it's sort of important. But and the other part is, learning to work as a team, uh, learning how to collaborate and work together. That's also important, because you can't work just individually by yourself when you're working with an athlete, because there's a whole team working with an athlete together, from the coach to the S&C to the physio to maybe a sports psychologist. So you'd have to check in, or, make an effort to work with a team, look at how collaborations are. So, not every time they will reach out to you. So you'd also have to make an equal effort to reach out. So you have to, you know,
Absolutely.
learn how to collaborate. And I think those are some of the things that are, important. And also learn how to get data, like what do you say? Uh, Be aware of the different apps, technology, and things out there, because now athletes, recreational athletes, they all have some sort of devices that give them data. So you can't be like totally, away from all of those things. But yeah, learning that is also important.
I think very well said, very well put. Thank you for that. So, what is the career trajectory that one needs to follow if they want to pursue a career in sports nutrition? If we
Hmm.
can begin from the subjects that one needs to take or the stream that one needs to take, you did mention biology, but if we can take it further to the kind of bachelor programs and degree programs that are offered by the universities both in India and abroad, and whether the specialization in sports nutrition actually happens at the master's level, or one can do it at the undergrad level as well.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so with I mentioned, yes, bio is the base that you take at grade 12. And then post that, for your degree, there are lots of universities that offer nutrition and dietetics. Uh, but there are different like branches. They could offer, as in them, just nutrition and dietetics alone, or you may have just subjects with respect to nutrition and dietetics as part of your, BSc.
Okay.
Okay, there are so the other bit is you can also do home science
Mhm.
by with the specialization in nutrition, or one of the electives being nutrition. So that's also something else that you can do with in your BSc courses.
Mhm.
There are a lot of them who also do biotechnology, or they've done physiotherapy, because it has to do with biology at some extent, to some extent. So these are all the different science related subjects you could take in at your BSc level, if you're unsure at that point whether you really want to do nutrition, right? So
Correct.
nutrition can be just a subject alone in it, or it can be a full-fledged nutrition and dietetics course at your BSc level itself.
Okay.
When you come to MSc, if you've done any of these courses,
Mhm.
um, you are most likely eligible to opt for an MSc in nutrition and dietetics. So
Okay.
your MSc is just like any other, master's program, which is 2 years. Some offer also a diploma for a year. If you go to the UK, your MSc programs are just a year compared to the US and Australia and all of that. So in India, it's 2 years as well. So this is usually like the route you would take when when you're looking to study nutrition and dietetics. So when I did it at BSc, I had a mix of different subjects which had chemistry, zoology, nutrition, and dietetics as part of my course, because I also thought at one point maybe I'd want to do something with respect to animal health, and I thought the zoology would help me there. I liked chemistry, but I didn't know what exactly I wanted to do with it. So so I decided to go in for a course like that, because I still wasn't sure whether I wanted nutrition for myself. But the subjects were interesting, so I ended up taking that.
Okay. So biology is a prerequisite.
Yes, yes.
And how long are these BSc programs in India?
They're 3 years.
And what kind of subjects do you study in these programs? Like, are they theoretical in nature? Or they are practical oriented? Do you have any opportunities for studentship, internships to get some exposure?
Yeah, thanks. I was coming to that. I wanted to touch base on that also. Yeah, so as part of your BSc and MSc, there are practical, there is a practical part of it. And that has to do more with cooking, to make different sort of diets for different conditions. So that's mostly the practical part of it that's involved in a nutrition and dietetics, course. Right, so you may have to do a practical session where you're cooking for someone who has, maybe if it's from a medical setup, someone who has a renal condition or someone who has a liver condition or somebody who has diabetes. What are the kind of foods you would, recommend and then also prepare for them? Uh, from a sports setup, the practicals could be different more in terms of, analyzing your sweat rate, looking at your urine, analysis. Those things could happen from a sports, practical setup. But between BSc and MSc, right, I would uh, definitely encourage internships. So now most colleges, they have two internships generally, which happen at the BSc level. They also happen at MSc level, right? So it's usually between 1 to 3 months. And as a company, we also have a lot of interns who work with us over the course of the year, right? It could range from 8 weeks, it could range up to 24 weeks, which is up to 6 months. So depending on the course that they're doing and the year they're in, the college itself has internships that their students have to do as part of the program. But outside of that, I would also then encourage, students to do an internship, because that's where you're kind of then on the job. You will learn different things. And at Nutrify Diet, we just like to, put them on the job from day one, like involve them with our clients. So they really understand what's happening practically, and it's not, you know, just um, just they're behind the scenes, but to the extent that they can be involved in, then we help them, we give them that experience. uh,
Yeah, and exploring really helps because you can figure out where your genuine interest lies, what kind of a sub branch or a field you would like to specialize in.
Yeah, totally. Because we do get interns who come in saying that I'm not sure what sports nutrition,
Mhm.
is like. What kind of athletes come in, or I want to explore this for 3 months, right? And so if we sometimes just help those interns work with us for the 3 months, because it just helps them get more clarity, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, what would you say about the master's program? How important it is to pursue your MSc after completing BSc. Does it provide you a lot of value add to interact and handle your clients more confidently?
Oh yes, like, see, out of personal experience, I felt like after BSc, I wouldn't have been in a position to really handle a client just with that knowledge. right? MSc really then gives you a much more grounding, much more information. You're studying the subject more in depth. In today's sort of day and age, I think most companies or hospitals will hire nutritionists only with an MSc degree. There are very few that would, only would take in someone at a BSc level, unless it's something that is not too, customer facing, or it's more just projects here and there.
Hmm.
But yes, so MSc is a requirement, right? Even at our company, we do take in applications only for those who have completed their MSc. So that's
So,
important, yeah.
yeah, that's great. That's great to know. So, according to you, how well sports nutrition has evolved in India? Are there enough colleges and universities offering worthwhile courses? If we have to compare this
Mhm.
with abroad, because you have done
Yes.
your education in sports nutrition from abroad, and you are working in India, you have your own setup. So, what are some striking differences, if there are any?
Yeah, so when I studied, sports nutrition, at that point there were very few colleges in India. Most of them were concentrated in Mumbai, and a couple of them in Chennai. But otherwise, even electives in sports nutrition didn't exist when I did it. It feels really long ago now, but that was in 2010. So at that point, the decision to go abroad was just because there weren't enough courses that were being offered here, right? So right now in India, there are more universities that are offering like MScs, right? But in terms of like an overall experience, I think doing it abroad does add value, especially with sports nutrition. Just because most of the sports universities have a lot of athletes who are part of the universities. They have training facilities, they have research that is ongoing at some of these top universities. You get to participate or work with when you do your research, work with athletes within that campus and university, right? And most of the lecturers that um, you would have classes from and all of that have a lot of research background. They're in the field with, like, they've done a lot of research practically with the athletes. So learning from them becomes much better, right? So they have that on-field experience. They also might have their personal practice. So I felt, with respect to knowledge in that regard, with respect to um, the infrastructure and the opportunities that we have, because you can also abroad, the culture is such that you can intern when you're studying. You get opportunities to participate in research, uh, as just as help to the researchers, but you can do a lot of those with your free time when you're abroad. I think that culture here, I don't see it as much. Like, there are the courses being offered, but even with experience of the faculty and all of it, there is like a difference between what you get abroad and what you get here, because a lot of the faculty haven't done like a master's in sports nutrition. A lot of them are clinical nutritionists who have also then studied sports nutrition, and then they go on to teaching, which is fine. Theoretical knowledge is there, but the overall experience is better abroad.
So, how much is the acceptability as well as the accessibility of sports nutrition now in India, across the sporting fields to various athletes, both recreational ones as well as the professional ones?
The acceptability, I think, is really picking up because when we get inquiries, we get specific requests now for sports nutritionists.
Nice.
In the past, like if now the company is almost 10 years old, right? So when starting off, it was to have like someone with experience. Like the sports athletes were, looking for a nutritionist with experience. But now queries come in specifically with sports nutrition, right? So do you have a sports nutrition on your team? Do you have someone who's done their MSc in sports nutrition? So it is we
Right.
have specific questions like that. So there is definitely acceptability. There are a lot of different areas that you can work in and uh, get opportunities at, right? But I do see that shift.
Nice. That's very
Yeah.
good to know.
I'm not
So,
sure if I missed out the second half of your question, but let me
no,
know if
I
okay.
think it's fine. Ventures like Nutrify My Diet are making it more and more accessible to athletes.
Yeah.
The sports nutrition bit of it, I think, is becoming now more and more accessible to the various academies, across
Yeah.
India.
See, just to give you like my experience when I started off, right? I decided to come back to India. There were a couple of reasons, but it may not be related to this alone. So this podcast. So, but what I want to come to is that there were hardly places I could apply to as a sports nutritionist, right? So the one company that was, onboarding sports nutritionist was where I got in, and I was maybe their third employee. So there was just one place, but even SAI, for example, like the Sports Authority of India, didn't have sports nutritionists as part of their center till very recently, maybe just till 5 years ago, right? So they didn't have it. We didn't have like Kilo India schemes back then. The amount of sporting infrastructure that is picked up now was far lesser those days. So there were very few opportunities. So a lot of and also there wasn't as much sports nutrition. There were not sports nutrition courses either, which have all started in the last 5 years. So that so the whole scenario with respect to sports nutrition has changed, and now there are a lot of places. Back then, it was mainly gyms, fitness centers,
Hmm.
and
Correct.
there are still very few companies who offer sports nutrition as a practice, but there are so many more.
Right, right. So, can you name some, top of the mind, top-notch colleges in India or abroad that one can look out for if they want to get into sports nutrition? And is there something called a PhD also in sports nutrition apart from BSc and MSc?
Oh, yes. So from the PhD part of it, that's what I was mentioning. When we're doing, abroad, most of our lecturers were all PhD students with some specialization of, different categories in sports nutrition, but they had that. And so you can very well do a PhD in sports nutrition. Uh, it exists and you can pursue that, right? With respect to colleges, so Mumbai, as I mentioned earlier, is one of the hubs. So there's SVT, there's SNDT, there is Nirmala Niketan. These have been offering sports nutrition courses for a while now. With like when I say sports nutrition, these are MSc courses. I've recently come across even NIN, a National Institute of Nutrition in Hyderabad, offering, sports nutrition. There are a couple of, there is one in Chennai. It's a medical college. I just can't get the name right now, but there is one in Chennai that offers, and a new college that's opened up in like Rajasthan, a university, maybe not new, but they've had sports nutrition as part of their curriculum. I also know that just because of the CVs that we, receive. So we're looking at where they're studying, but largely sports nutrition still continues to be like an elective subject that is offered under nutrition and dietetics. So that's the bigger umbrella. And under that, you can specialize in sports nutrition. So most of the nutrition and dietetics courses offer sports nutrition like that, but apart from the few I mentioned here. And there's also one, then there are, others that have diplomas,
Hmm.
maybe for a year. So there is,
How worthwhile and substantial these diplomas are.
see, if you look at the Indian context, they accept those even with a certification, right? So some places will employ nutritionists who want to work with athletes, and even if they have just a certification, which is 3 months or even less, there are some who would they would again employ those who have a diploma. So once you have something that you've done with respect to sports nutrition, you can start to apply in these places. And the acceptance is not very different from someone who might do a MSc in sports nutrition. So though it's not fair, I feel, you know because the certifications and diplomas, you can opt for it even if you don't have a biology background. So sometimes they don't also have very strict rules as to who can apply for it and who can uh, study those courses. And this field is not very strictly regulated in India, right? So abroad, to practice as a sports nutritionist, you have to take the registered dietitian exam. So you will study sports nutrition, but you also have to do your registered dietitian exam, and then you will practice as a sports nutritionist with that credential. Here, you don't really have to, be a registered dietitian to do that. You can do your master's in nutrition and dietetics, which is considered like, you know, what do you say? The essential requirement, and then you can always specialize in sports nutrition, whether you choose to do again just a certification, a diploma, or longer master's program again. That is up to you, but it doesn't always come in the way of opportunities.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of nutrition and dietetics, this term nutritionist and dietitian are often used interchangeably.
Yeah.
So is there a difference between the two?
Yeah. I had a feeling you'll ask me that now. So uh, yeah, so see, dietetics is mostly for those who work in a medical nutrition setup in hospitals, in that sort of setup. A nutritionist generally doesn't work in a hospital setup. They can work in gyms, they can work in fitness centers, they can work with food tech, they can work in different areas like that. But dietitian generally means that they have the ability to work with as a medical nutritionist, in that. So that's why there are courses that offer like clinical nutrition and dietetics. So it's mostly those dietitians that then work in a medical setup. So that is the main difference, though they're used, interchangeably. Yes, a lot of times.
So, what would you, according to you, the job prospects of a sports nutritionist is better in India, or it is, far more in any country abroad?
So, yeah, that's a little tricky to, answer because let's look at it like this. In India, we have like so many students applying for, engineering and medicine, right? Abroad, it's that number that applies for, that takes up sports sciences. Nutrition is part of that as well. Uh, as a career choice. So there are a lot more individuals who apply, who are out there applying for jobs. While there
Mhm.
are a lot more opportunities, right?
Mhm.
Because the there are definitely more sports, there's been more awareness. This is not an emerging field abroad. There are opportunities, but for international students, it might be a little difficult because one, to retain you as an employee, you have to be exceptionally good. They have to also, clarify why they want to choose an international student over their, international employee over their, the locals over there. Or like if you're looking at Europe, then first it is, the first preference goes to EU students. Right? The second is to international students. So unless you're like an exception from the lot,
Mhm.
finding jobs become difficult. Though there are lots of opportunities, the companies have to really give a valid reason why they want to pick you over somebody else. Now, because of that, I notice a lot of students that go abroad to study, um, they don't end up working in the sports setup. A lot of times they end up finding themselves working in a clinical, setup,
Mhm.
or they are working with maybe health tech companies. Maybe they're working with supplement related companies, who also onboard nutritionists or sports nutritionists. So they don't exactly get into the sports nutrition field as
Mhm.
such, but yeah, they can, land up a job opportunity in other related, fields of
Especially the
nutrition.
healthcare sector.
Yeah, in the healthcare sector. They don't end up in the sports sector
Mm.
immediately, right?
Understood.
Yeah. In India, though, again, there are opportunities, not as many,
Mhm.
but it is growing and it is picking up. Like there, over here, there are private, companies that have it from the government. There is, as I mentioned, they have their Sai centers all over India, and each of the Sai centers have like two positions that are open, right? Then there's also, what do you say? The companies that are again privately funded, but there is OGQ, there is Go Sports, and all of these sponsor athletes, and they also onboard nutritionists. So, uh, and then there are a number of other supplement brands, health and fitness centers, rehab centers, and hospitals that also then work with sports. So there are a lot more opportunities right now uh, compared to what they were.
So, how much sports nutrition has been able to make a genuine impact on the athlete's performance?
I think a lot. I would like to say a lot, okay, because back then there was talent, right, and passion, hard work, and that's how we've seen like a lot of like I wouldn't say maybe a lot, but there have been a fair share of Indian athletes who've made it to the top, right,
Correct.
without having sports nutrition in their era, you know.
Absolutely.
But right now, with the demands of, with the demands that athletes face internationally, just it's become so much more competitive, right? Competitive, generally. So, having all of that and meeting like standards that they have to match internationally, it's not anymore just about passion and talent. You can be extremely talented, you can be very passionate about your sport, but it'll only take you so far.
Mhm.
So along with that, you have to layer it with others, sports science support, and nutrition becomes a very important part of that. Because one thing that, foreign coaches that have had the experience working with always say that, there's so much talent here, but the food is just not syncing with the talent, right? We're eating more just to feed our stomachs, but we're not eating to really help with the performance bit, right? So just in day-to-day practice, I see like improvements. It's something that you can see in less than 2 weeks. The first simplest thing being just energy levels, and a lot of athletes would just say that, okay, I feel so much more better training. I'm not, you know, I'm not just, uh, can't get the word. very ironically, but not just feeling that lack of energy, towards the end or midway through the session. Recovery is so much better. And if
Mm.
you're able to do those things, then your day-to-day practice becomes so much more efficient, right?
Yeah, I
So
think it's the nutrition also takes care of the burnt out and the fatigue or the exhaustion that sometimes sets in the
yeah.
athlete routine or the
Yeah, and
performance.
like I said, this is day to day, right? Week after week, you have to show up. It's not that you feel your
Mm,
best on Monday, you do a great session, but you need to
mm,
feel almost similar even on a Friday or Saturday towards the end of the week. So it becomes, very important. And when talking to, the athlete, we ask them a question like, okay, how are your energy levels during your training session? And some of them would say 4 on 10, 5 on 10. So, all of the athletes will show up to a training session, right?
mm.
But do they really get the best output out of that session? That's something that nutrition can really play a very direct role in achieving. So,
So you have your own venture by
mhm,
Nutrify My Diet. So what are the entrepreneurial prospects of sports
mhm.
nutrition in India?
Well, I think once you've had like an experience of 3 or 4 years, you really understand how to support yourself. I think you can start off, by your own. It's one of those streams where you don't need much in terms of, what do you say, like a loan, or you don't need a lot of financial backup to start something yourself. Because what you really need is, your own expertise. You need like those skills. And you don't need to invest too much in like equipment or infrastructure and all of that. So starting as an entrepreneur is fairly easy. It's just that you have to have like, good knowledge. You have to have all of those skills that I mentioned early on for those to, for you to sort of have like, for your clients to have confidence in what you're
Mm. Offering
proposing,
them.
and
Yeah.
what suggestions you're mentioning, giving. But so from that aspect, there is a lot of scope, but it's not as easy to support yourself every time. It's not as easy as people think it is, right? If you want to keep growing in your career, you have to, you mean, just being a solo entrepreneur doesn't work out unless you just want to keep yourself busy through the month.
Mm.
But if you want to build it into something much more, then it's not, yeah, I wouldn't say it is as simple as people think, because nowadays there's a lot of, I think with, um, you know, the younger generation, they're exploring a lot more than
Mm.
maybe my generation would, right? So,
Absolutely.
sticking to one sort of place or job isn't something that we see happening.
Right.
The timelines are more like 1 year, 1.5 year, and then they want to explore something else,
Mm.
right? Maybe within the same field, but yeah. So, but anyway, coming to your point about entrepreneurship, I think there is definitely the opportunity, and it is possible.
You are India's one of the top-notch sports nutritionist, and with your own venture, Nutrify My Diet. So, for the benefit of our audience, because they really want to know your journey, how did this idea fructify in your mind, and how difficult this journey has been for you? What kind of a grit it takes to reach where you have reached today?
Yeah. Well, now when I look back, yes, it's been 10 years. It's been a really good journey overall. But the reason I started, Nutrify My Diet is, one, I had already, the company that I was working with previously, which was Qua Nutrition, had given me a good exposure to different, you know, um, clients, help, sort of molded me into uh, the nutritionist I was becoming, right? So I had about 4 years of experience then. So it gave me the confidence to, sort of branch out from there. But more importantly, because I wanted to do more work with athletes, I wanted the opportunity to work with academies. And in that sort of setup, I knew I wasn't going to get those opportunities. So I had to figure that bit out by myself. So, but I think the other important part is I had to be very confident that I could sustain, the financial burden myself. Like if I was going to move out from a, steady paying role, a steady paying income, I had to either be able to match that or do better, which I could, take that step after 4 years. And in the meantime, during the 4 years that I was working with Qua Nutrition, I had also taken up a franchisee of one of their a franchisee within Bangalore. So that sort of gave me real time experience of understanding, okay, what goes into entrepreneurship.
Wow.
So all of these three decisions, having the experience, having the franchisee experience, in addition, and knowing that I could self sustain at that point, uh, led me to starting Nutrify my diet, right? And once I started Nutrify my diet, it's like early on things were very good, and I didn't have any roadblocks or things that really came in the way. Through word of mouth, things picked up, and there were no roadblocks as such. But through the course of the 10 years, there've been different things that you really need um, uh, to watch out for. They could be employees that come in, they leave, so it kind of disturbs the sort of balance. You need to constantly improve on technology. You need to there are like lots of things. You need to understand how sales works more, because you are doing your own, you're spending time with what you want to do most. But as an entrepreneur, you have to also bring in revenue, because it's you can't shy away from saying that, okay, I don't want to take care of that bit. So you have to learn those things. So I think in the during the franchisee bit, I was getting a taste of it, but here I was fully responsible for it as well. Right. So there is that, how to deal with customer complaints that may come, because it could be natural. In a service based industry, you cannot satisfy everybody. That is just the bitter truths. Right. So
True.
there are some of those things that come in. So like I said, I've not had like major roadblocks, but there are things, day to day things that you have to battle uh,
Yeah.
and sort of work towards. So
Yeah, no, it takes courage to, travel or to go on the path less traveled. And really a fabulous journey. Hats off to you for holding the fort high for Nutrify My Diet. I'm sure,
thank
you
you.
have paved the way for many aspiring, aspiring and budding sports nutrition enthusiasts to get into this career and follow their instincts.
Yeah, I that was something that I did have in mind, because I wanted to also provide a place where uh, like-minded professionals can come join our team, enrich what I already have, with a lot of other, like many minds, good minds can work together, and you know uh, and so, yeah, with all of that, I hope, yeah, with Nutrify My Diet, going into the next decade, we can, yeah, have a better, team, and a lot more nutritionists working with us.
And I wish you all the best in your endeavors in future. To wrap up this podcast, I'll ask you just one last question. What would be your advice to someone who is aspiring to be a sports nutritionist or is a budding sports nutritionist and an enthusiast?
Oh, okay. All right. So see, with sports nutrition, right, compared to a lot of other jobs that are out there, or if you're comparing like compared with what your friends are doing in different fields, this field does not pay very well. Okay, we're like, wanting to change that as well for the people that work with us and in just this ecosystem, right? So my first suggestion is when you enter sports, right, it's very unpredictable. It works a lot on networking, right? So for budding sports nutritionists, the first thing is take up like one internship opportunities. Okay, don't look at the pay scale right away. Though, you've done MSc, you want to, start with a good pay scale. In sports, it may not pay off like that initially, right? So build your network through, doing internships or just being in touch. Like LinkedIn is a good, source to also do that. Uh, and when you start your first, role, like I said, don't expect to be on a very high paying role, but grab the learnings that you can take from it, right? And once you've done that, then you get the experience, so you can decide whether you want to, continue your career working in a company like that. You want to be an entrepreneur, you start yourself. So then a lot of things open up. You can work in academies, but everybody needs that 2 or 3 years to sort of, the time that it really takes for you to be a good working professional. So I would, encourage you to go for different networking meetings that are present, because that is what really helps you crack different roles, especially in a sports setup. Like the word of mouth bit does work, quite effectively and strongly. So even with, as opposed to maybe another candidate that has equal qualifications, definitely a word of mouth would help there. Or if you've had previous experience interning, all of those little things play a big part. So and also start having some presence out there in social media, because whether, I'm not saying only Instagram, but even on LinkedIn, make sure that um, you are updated, you are putting out posts, you are putting on out thoughts, because that's what some recruiters will also go back and check, do. So, um, yeah, that's the thing. And just, hang in there, because this field is definitely emerging. There will be a lot more opportunities, um, and I think it'll be a very successful, a field to get into. It is sort of the right time where um, I think this will only pick up from here. So,
So true. I mean, sports is at the helm in India. We have so many sporting stalwarts now across the sporting fields,
yes.
whether badminton, swimming, tennis, and it is no longer restricted to just an obvious cricket.
Yes,
So
yes, and
I'm sure.
that's just very refreshing, even for us as nutritionists, because there are so many different sports that you can work with, and it's just not this. There's also Paralympics that you can, work
So
towards. They are
true.
doing so much better, at the Olympic level. The medals that
Absolutely.
India does collectively at, Paralympics. So there are like lots of different streams, areas, opportunities. So I think just take your first 2, 3 years as really learning, getting into the field, and then the opportunities will come your way. It shouldn't be the other way around, where you go knocking. Once you do this, there will be opportunities that will start to come your way.
Yeah, great. Shona, this was a great insights. Your insights have, I would say, was so aligned to your philosophy. It has truly nourished, empowered, and sustained our parent and the student community today. Thank you so much for your, expertise and your time. We greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Ruchika. It was a pleasure.
You were listening to No Herd Mentality Career Podcast. Please subscribe to our channel for more such in depth conversations on different careers and professions. I'm Ruchika signing off on behalf of No Herd Mentality.